Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Planetarium shows. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of the Planetarium, and it's going to be just me here with you tonight. I'm giving my students some much needed time off after our very busy week last week, which was, of course, our annual Dark Sky Caravan. Thank you to those who came out to join us. We had a fabulous time all week long. But tonight we are getting back to kind of our regular schedule. So we will be taking a look at the constellations that we can see up in August. So let me get all of that brought up right now. There we go. So for those of you who are maybe new to our shows, welcome. But the program that we use to do our kind of constellation shows every month is this really cool program called Stellarium. There's a link in the description if you're interested in checking it out. It's completely free. But it's basically a planetarium for your computer. You can put in your date, time, and location, and it shows you what the sky looks like. So I've got us set up for right now in Duluth, Minnesota, since that's where the planetarium is located. And this time of year, right now, the sun is still up. So what I'm going to have to do here is fast forward time a little bit. And we can watch the sun set over in the west. Go a little bit faster. We'll let it keep going until we've got some nice dark skies. So this is looking about 9:30 tonight. So to start us off, we're going to look over in the north. And the set of stars that I always recommend starting any nighttime viewing session with is the 7 stars that make up the Big Dipper. And if you are having trouble spotting it, it is these 7 stars right here. We have the handle and the cup. Now, this is a great set to start your night off with. One, because they're up, at least for the northern hemisphere, they're up all year round. And they're very bright and easy to find, even in decently light polluted skies. So it's a good kind of grounding point to kind of get yourself oriented in the sky. Find the Big Dipper, and then you can go from there. And I'll show you in just a little bit that once you've found the Big Dipper, there's actually several other things in the sky that you can find using its help. Now, before we move on to that, let's talk a little bit more about the Big Dipper. So the 7 stars that make up the Big Dipper are themselves not a constellation. They're actually an asterism. So they're a smaller grouping of stars within a larger constellation. In this case, they're part of the Greek constellation of Ursa Major, which is the Big Bear. So the handle of the dipper is actually the tail of the bear, and then we have the back over to its ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. And that is our big bear in the sky. Now, you may know, since there is a Big Dipper and a Big Bear, that there must be a little counterpart. There is, in fact, a Little Dipper and a Little Bear. And this is one of the first things that we're actually going to use the Big Dipper to help us. So what you're going to do is once you've found the Big Dipper, you're going to go to the front 2 stars in the cup of the Big Dipper. Those are known as the pointer stars because if you connect them in a line and follow that line, they point you to this star. This star is named Polaris, but it's most commonly known as the North Star. And it is the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. And so you can see here the handle and the cup. Now, for most people, you will not be able to see all of the stars in the Little Dipper. At most, you will probably see Polaris and these front 2 stars. The other 4 stars are very dim, and you have to have incredibly dark skies to be able to see them. But this Little Dipper is also our little bear. And so we have a bear tail and then a tiny little bear body. So maybe something like this. You'll often find with constellations that you kind of have to stretch your imagination a little bit in order to see what they're supposed to be. All right, well, there are two more constellations that we can find here using those pointer stars of the Big Dipper. For our next one, we're going to follow those pointer stars to Polaris, just like we did the first time, but then we're going to keep going, arcing down just slightly. And we'll end up in this big W. This W is the Greek constellation of Cassiopeia, the Queen. And this one also takes some imagination. Typically, she is imagined as if she's sitting in her throne. The way I think of her is like this is her head and her back, her upper legs, lower legs, and big feet. Now you'll see the way this program draws her is a little bit different. Still somewhat the same, still sitting down in her throne, but just slightly different in how she's sitting oriented to us. And you'll see that a lot depending on kind of whose maps of the sky, whose drawings you're seeing. You'll notice that there are sometimes some differences because as we've seen, constellations need some imagination sometimes. And so some people will interpret the stars a little bit differently. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right, the last constellation that we're going to find here in the north goes back to our pointer stars. And this time we're going to follow them, but stop at the very first star that we see. This is the end of the tail of Draco the dragon. So we follow his long winding tail up and around to his head. And so this is Draco the dragon. There we go. And so those are our constellations that we can see up in the north this month. And if you've been here for other star shows, you may recognize quite a few of them because just like the Big Dipper and the Big Bear, these constellations are up, at least for us here in Duluth, all year round. So it's another reason why I like to start in the north because again, it's a really good place to kind of familiarize yourself and ground yourself so that you know what and where you're looking. And then you can kind of go from there. So speaking of that, let's kind of turn the sky and start looking at a different part of the sky. This time, we're going to take our attention over to the southwest, using the Big Dipper one last time. But this time we're going to use the handle of the Big Dipper, which you'll notice is curved or arced. And so what you want to do is follow the arc of that handle to this bright star, which is conveniently labeled for us on this program. This is the star Arcturus. And so that's the saying. From the Big Dipper, you follow the handle and you arc to Arcturus. Now, Arcturus is part of this kind of kite or ice cream cone shape. This is supposed to be a man. This is the constellation Borealis. Again, a little bit of imagination needed there, but that is our bear herder. Now, right next to Borealis, there is this U shape of stars. This is Corona Borealis, the northern crown, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a crown in the stars. And then just beside that, we have this interesting set of stars here, which makes up the hero Hercules. And in fact, you may notice that Hercules is kind of battling some things right now. He's also battling Draco in the sky. All right, now continuing over, looking in the south, if you're in very dark skies, you may see this fuzzy band stretching out from the southern horizon. That is our Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy we live in. And on either side of the Milky Way in the south sits two more constellations that you can find. On the left, there is what's commonly referred to as the Teapot. So we have like the body of the teapot here, the handle, the top, and the spout. But this is actually supposed to be the constellation Sagittarius, who is a centaur, half man, half horse. So again, a little bit of imagination there to turn a teapot into a centaur, but that's what the Greeks imagined there. And you'll notice that he is docking his arrow pointed across the Milky Way at our next constellation. So opposite Sagittarius, across from the Milky Way, you may notice this sideways T. And this is Scorpius the scorpion. And so we have kind of his head and his claws and his body, and his tail dips down underneath the horizon. So Sagittarius is docking his arrow at the scorpion in the sky. Oops. All right. Now looking over to the east for our last set of constellations we're going to look at. High up in the sky in the east, you will notice three very bright stars, and these make up the summer triangle. We have Vega, Altair, and Deneb, and each is in their own constellation. Vega is in Lyra the Harp. This is kind of how it's drawn. I pictured a little bit differently, but that is Lyra the Harp there. Altair is in Aquila the Eagle. Again, this draws it a little bit differently than I do. I kind of see this as the body of the eagle, but this sees this as the body. And then Deneb is in Cygnus the Swan. So we've got kind of two birds here in our summer triangle. All right, and then one last one, which is kind of a favorite of mine. Right beneath the summer triangle, we have Delphinus the Dolphin, a nice little dolphin there, right underneath our birds. Now, there's some other things that we can see up in the sky than just constellations, and that is, of course, planets. Starting out not too long after it gets dark, rising up in the southeast, we have the planet Saturn, which has just a couple days ago reached opposition, which is basically when it's closest to the Earth for this year. So it's a really great time to go out, and see it while it's very close to the Earth. And then if we keep going later into the night, not too far after, we have Jupiter rising up in the east. And Saturn and Jupiter will stay up in our skies for several months. And so we've got some great planets there to see once it gets dark. And if you're up for staying up even later, just before midnight, Mars also makes its appearance up in the night sky. Now, Mars is actually currently sitting in some winter constellations, because whether we like it or not, winter is going to be coming around very soon. All right, we will let the night continue to pass on by. We see Orion rising up just before the sun, as well as the planet Venus. And then we have sunrise, and we are back into the daytime. So that is what the sky is going to look like pretty much all month long, and heading into the beginning of September as well. So now you kind of know what to look for when you go out in the night sky. If you are not in the Duluth area, you can always get Stellarium for yourself and put in your location and see what the night sky would look like for you. Although as long as you're in the northern hemisphere, it's going to look pretty similar to what I just showed you. All right, well, let me see. I'm not seeing any questions or anything. So I will put one call out. If there are any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments. And while I wait to see if anything comes in, let me tell you about our schedule for this week. So for our in-person shows Friday and Saturday, Friday is going to be Adventure to the Edge of the Universe. And Saturday, our family show is Cosmic Colors. And our general public show that evening is Black Holes. A couple of great movies if you're in the Duluth area. And then we will be back here on our live stream next Wednesday with our monthly edition of Ask an Astronomer. All right, well, I'm not seeing questions, so I think I will wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for joining me. I'm so used to saying us, joining me tonight. Hopefully you now have some new fun things to go and try and look at. And yeah, enjoy the night sky. Till next time. See you later. Bye everyone.